education assistant at the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City, which is where I'm at today, which is very exciting. Thank you for watching this edition of UU of the Week. Today, we are going to learn about Sam Ames. They are a living, breathing UU who is still making a positive impact on our faith and our country. Sam Ames has too many impressive job titles and credentials to mention, but here's a few. They are a civil rights attorney, LGBTQ advocate, and founder of the Born Perfect campaign to end conversion therapy. And Sam Ames is a Unitarian Universalist. Ames was raised as a UU. And in an interview by Meryl Beam for the Treader Transgender Oral History Project from the University of Minnesota Libraries, they said, "I grew up with the understanding that social justice was a spiritual practice. I was really lucky that I had this community of youth and young activists who were really bringing me up with this, meaning social justice, in my mindset." They studied psychology and theater at UC Santa Cruz and looked forward to a future in the arts until California voters passed Prop 8 in 2008. This reignited a fire to organize and protest from their youth and eventually led them to law school. But first, a quick but sad history break on Proposition 8. On May 15, 2008, the California Supreme Court ruled in a 4-3 decision that laws directed at gays and lesbians are subject to strict scrutiny and that same-sex couples' access to marriage is a fundamental right. This ruling made same-sex marriage legal in California. However, by November of that same year, the people of California voted to amend their state constitution to state that marriage could only be between one man and one woman, thus making same-sex marriage illegal again. This was a devastating blow to the community, but through a lot of work and protest, Prop 8 was overturned 2 years later. But it inspired Sam Ames to study law, and they studied at George Washington University and continued to organize for LGBTQ rights while there. After graduating, they became a civil rights attorney and worked with many important LGBTQ leaders. And even with all the progress we have made towards LGBTQ equal rights, the trans community has repeatedly been left behind. But Sam Ames has stood up for the trans community time and time again. Ames founded the Born Perfect campaign to end conversion therapy, which took them to the White House and to the United Nations, resulting in the UN Human Rights Office calling on all member states to end conversion therapy. Ames says the Born Perfect campaign was so successful because it was survivor-led and trauma-informed. And after all of that time working with survivors, Ames decided to leave the law and study at Harvard Divinity to hone their skills of pastoral care and confronting religious trauma. After completing divinity school, they worked as a chaplain in San Francisco before becoming the interim executive director of both the Trans Lifeline and Our Family Coalition. Still ever active on the legal side of protecting LGBTQ community, when the Supreme Court was deciding whether Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act also protected queer people's equal employment rights, Sam Ames advocated extensively on behalf of the queer community. Now, this was during the Trump years, when legislation meant to protect queer people was consistently undone over and over again. When asked what would happen if the decision didn't go our way, Ames said, "Queer people, and especially trans people, have never relied on institutions for our existence. Throughout most of history, we have not had protections on the books. We have lived, existed, built family anyway. It is what defines us as a community. We exist anyway. We are family anyway. They can't overturn that. It is written into our skin. The best part is in June 2020, the Supreme Court did decide that people cannot be fired for being homosexual or transgender. It was an enormous victory for us all. I am grateful that Sam Ames works tirelessly on behalf of this community and that they continue to challenge institutions like the UUA to do better and be even more inclusive and equitable to our trans members and clergy. Ames says they wake up each morning, sometimes feeling like an atheist and sometimes not, but that being UU allows space for that. I'm thrilled that our faith has room for a leader with a keen eye towards social justice like Sam Ames, and I'm happy to add them to our collection of fabulous Unitarian Universalists. Join us next time to learn about another UU of the Week.